All right. Now, today I have Garrett here. Hello, Garrett. How's it going?
Going well, Tyler. How are you?
I have been trying to make this video with you now for about a week, and we keep getting interrupted for one reason or another. So, today I wanted to kind of pick your brain on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. God, those are such meaty titles.
I won't lie, the whole thing confused the heck out of me forever. I could not figure out which one was which.
And you just told me about something right before we started shooting this. Apparently, there is a Crisis Core remake, and when I'm looking it up, it's saying Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Yeah, and it looks like that's the remake of Crisis Core.
Yeah, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. These names are getting out of control here, for one. I just want everyone to know that right from the jump here before we discuss the games, because
Well, the JRP community is always run, the ringer when it comes to crazy names. Like there are some real, there's like Fantasy Star Online.
I think it's just their way of holding this over us. Like, we have to make the name this much extra so you know that it lasts for a long time. And you're going
Oh,
to play a game
absolutely.
that's going to be 118 hours to complete it. So, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm not that far into the game. I think I'm on chapter 5, and I've put in about 15 hours into the game so far. I don't know. Do you know about where you're at?
I believe I'm on like the middle of chapter 4 and I'm about 11 hours in.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this is ballooning out of control. And I just did my review on Remake. And for me, that game was so awesome because I felt like I could see the old game behind all of the shiny exterior. Like, it made sense. It was nice. It was short, sweet, to the point, and every minute felt like it was important. And I was watching something beautiful on screen. They had everything was crazy in that game, and I loved it from beginning to end. I will say I didn't do a lot of the side missions, but the stuff that I did play was really good. And that's what really sold me on this game. And now going into Rebirth, they just threw that all away. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think? If you want to give your thoughts on Remake here before we get into Rebirth.
Well, the part that I really liked about Final Fantasy VII, the original, not that I remember much of it given how long it's been since I played it, but I always did like how it would have like the really clunky Pixar animation, or the pixel animation, not Pixar, and then it would go over to like the hand-drawn backgrounds, or
Yeah.
you'd see like Midgar was like beautifully artistly renditioned and things like that. And I thought that remake did a pretty good job of making every scene like really matter, making
Yeah.
everything look really nice, even though not a lot was going on at any individual moment, but like everything looked very well thought out, planned, and had a mission, and I really liked how that came through.
Right. It's
And I
like
don't.
you're sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there,
No,
but
you're
it's
good.
like you're going up the ladder and you just see Midgar all down around you, and it's like that's cool. You're climbing up a ladder, and they made it cool. You see the city below you, or you see the big sky above you, or the big metal building. Like that's
I did
cool.
really like how they did that and like the different levels of Midgar, like the different like slums, and you could see the above plates were completely different, and like the
Yeah.
lights were blacked out, and how they had to have like different, essentially reactors that took the place of the sun that you have to look through.
Yeah, like how depressing is that? You have an
Oh, very.
artificial sun beaming down on you, and then they just decide, yeah, we're gonna drop the plate and just kill everybody. But yeah, I feel like was there anything else you wanted to add there?
Not no, not particularly. I like the game. I think it suffered from what a lot of games in that genre suffer from, and it's very like convoluted. And I don't think a lot of stuff really happens to explain what's going on. It just kind of seems like things happen to Cloud, and he just has to go along with it. I
Yeah,
mean, I do enjoy like you're a eco terrorist tech. Well, and yeah, I guess you would be the eco terrorist technically, but it's like I feel like they never really play into it too much. Like you don't really get to see their effects on the town or anything. You just kind of see like this pissing match between Shinra and then the Avalanche Coalition.
yeah, it's very much like a constantly moving story. Like things happen and you don't have time to linger. Like you always get the little check marks where it's like, hey, you're not coming back here, so finish up what you need to finish up, and then you can proceed from here. But
A minor issue, I will admit, though, it kind of annoyed me was like Intergrade, how there was that portion with they're talking about how like Barrett and Tifa and all of them are like a splinter cell from the original Avalanche group, but they never bothered to come up with their own names.
Yeah.
The dog
So
water
I
ball.
don't know if I even caught that. So they have other names for the other Splinter Cell
No, they
groups?
don't, and like that's what I always thought was kind of weird is that they branched off from what that one random like nerd that where like Yuffie comes up. That's got like the nerd group. I always
Yeah.
call them because they don't look like they're doing anything except for the guy with the crazy Z name, like Zija, whatever his name was. GJ, I
ZJ.
have no idea. Yeah, something like that. He was the only one that kind of did stuff, and all you really do is see him run away. But it's like, well, yeah, that's the Splinter Cell. Like, they ran off because they had a policy dispute. And I was like, okay, why didn't we come up with a different name? And
Yeah,
then you're
you
just
probably.
you're okay with taking the rap out of them blaming the plate drama on you? Like,
And it seems
none of
like
you
they
were
were way
worried?
better at their job than you are. You should have
Oh,
kept
like
them with you. They
significantly. Yeah,
made change.
significantly.
But
Like even I think Yuffie and Simon were like, yeah, these guys are nerds. Like we should have gone with the Splinter Cell. I think it happens like 3 separate times.
so you mentioned the story getting kind of convoluted at the end here. So that's kind of another good jumping off point into our discussion of Rebirth is so the story ends, and this is spoilers for anyone that hasn't played Remake, but I don't know why you would be watching this video if you haven't played Remake, or it's a weird video to jump in on. So I'm just going to go into it here. So the end of Remake, it seems like there's alternate realities converging into one story, or like because we get some of that at the beginning of Rebirth where they talk about you're not my Tifa, I saw you die, and things don't really make sense. Like
Well, that's what annoys me because it's kind of what it sounds like happens at the end when you fight Sephiroth in the
right,
remake, where it's like we have a chance to fix the past. One, nothing really happened that we know of in that story that indicates anything that technically went wrong except for a plate falling. But
right.
that it doesn't feel like we don't know why Aerith is sad. There's a random soldier we don't know. Technically, if since it's standalone game, we don't know anything about Zack or Cloud's backstory. So it just felt like a weird spot to put it in there when we don't know what really went wrong besides the plate falling. And if I'm honest, it really didn't affect the core group of Avalanche that much because everyone they liked kind of got out.
Well,
Even the dude that's definitely totally somehow not dead.
like I guess you could see that you could think that okay they have minor problems in the story compared to things that have happened in the game in the past, so they just want to correct those issues, but in doing so they defeated Sephiroth and it totally like screwed up the timeways and it caused all these realities to collapse in on themselves. So at least that was my take on it.
Well, like
because what else
yeah, but my one problem is like I don't feel like they do much in the form of like explaining why Sephiroth is important. Like I feel like the parts that we're learning now would have been relevant back then for me to kind of I felt like I just kind of went through stuff and it just kind of happened to me.
yeah.
Like maybe it takes like a smarter person than me to play those games, or maybe I wasn't listening as hard as I should have, but it just kind of felt like there was a lot of stuff that wasn't explained, and the idea that it's going to be explained in the sequel, which I don't really like because like I shouldn't be getting exposition in the sequel about about what I should know going into it.
Yeah.
Like why is Sephiroth a bad guy? Oh, it's because he's got mommy issues.
Well,
And then
it's hard because in the first game he wasn't even in any of that. Like when I was going back and playing the original, he's not present in that part of the story at all. So like they're kind of tying like I guess the way that I look at it, it's like they wanted to do a remake of 7, but they didn't want to be stuck into it the whole way through. So it's like they do all of the main broad stroke bits that they wanted to cover, and then they have Sephiroth with his one-winged angel thing going on. I don't know what the big deal is. I beat him, and he sucks, and we'll see what happens next. But
he was like the first internet like well-known boss. Like I swear, he was like in everything. He's like Kingdom Hearts 2, and he still kicks ass in that one. He's hard as hell.
I just feel like they had certain things they wanted to do in that game, and then now they want to branch off into something new, which is fine, but now the story's getting so weird and they're kind of losing the narrative where I felt like everything that appealed to me from the first game, they have like changed and totally reworked. And I know the game opens up after the events of Remake in the traditional story, which is fine. Like, you can do that, but then they did it like too much where it's like there's so much stuff in the map. Like, you open up the map and it's like, oh my god, with the icons, like there's all of like, yeah, go fight this random variant of a flying owl beast. Great. Now go climb a tower. Now go get the chocobos. Like, there's just, it's too much, and that's
And I
exactly
I
the
do
opposite
feel
of
like
what made the last game so good.
I do feel like a lot of it is like a step away because you definitely like the highly renditioned artists and the things like that. And I do feel like them broadening it over. One, you can kind of see like the drop in the processing power and all that stuff, and it's it doesn't look as good as the other thing. I can't say like I think it is bad per se, but it does feel kind of like you walk around in The Witcher and you like the forest. It feels like something. It feels like you're doing stuff, or Skyrim and things like that. This one, it just kind of feels empty, like you're just kind of going from like point to point, and I don't have any reason to look at stuff.
Yeah, true. It bothers me mostly because it feels like a different game in a way where
Oh, for sure.
that's fine if that's what you want to do. But this is a sequel to Remake, and it's almost totally different. It
And I
looks
feel like
worse. And go ahead.
I just have problems a lot with like their tones. Like it changes. Like you go from watching Cloud like talking about a story and being very open for like the beginning part of the game, and then immediately after he opens up, he immediately closes back down. And it's like, okay, well, we just made progress. Why is he reverting? Where it feels like we're almost watching two different stories play out.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, I'm a happy Cloud that's kind of explaining things. I trust these people to like, I still don't trust you. Like in the chapter 3 or whatever, we're in the mines and they're making the $2,000 joke. I don't understand why Cloud doesn't take that as hilarious. Like he keeps making the joke and Bear goes like, I was like, what the? I don't get it. Barrett used to hate you and now he's on your team. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it is a little back and forth, and it feels weird. And I get what you say about Cloud, where it's like he's kind of a weird character, but that's kind of just
Or
an
even
old
Tifa.
character. Yeah. So, and we'll see. Maybe this will all make sense by the end of the story. You know, we're still pretty early on in it. Maybe they're going to have some kind of a big epiphany where, oh my God, Cloud was mind melding with all of these different clouds throughout all of the different realities this whole time. Didn't you see that? It will be like, oh yeah, that's why it was super weird and awkward.
And
Great.
that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. It's going to be something like that. Because like I was telling you, like you can romance certain characters and what, and like to get that Tifa option in like the middle of chapter 4, you have to, I think you pick the one where it's like the only person I remember from our village was you. And she does like this little like squeeze her hands. She goes, she sits in the bed, clearly an invitation to sit next to her. And then Cloud literally zones out mid conversation. Like it's like he immediately goes back to Vietnam flashbacks. Like he just stares against the wall and she's like, you're not listening, are you? And he's like, no, but I'm here to if you want to. It's like, what the hell
Yeah.
happened?
I mean, I do like he. I like how they're doing the PTSD thing. You could tell
Yeah.
he's like spacing out. Like, that's fine. That's cool. He's a bad boy. He's got all these girls all over him. Like, fine. You want to do that story. You want to do that story. That's fine. It's just I my issues with the game are it just feels like a sequel to a completely different game. Like it's so odd. Like the graphics seem worse. Like I'm playing it. There's the two different performance mode and graphics mode, right? So I'm playing in performance, which naturally lowers the graphics, sure, but the last game was a PS4 game. I played through half of it on the PS4 version of the game, and it looked way better than parts of this game. Even with performance mode, you would think, okay, if I'm playing it at 60 FPS, it should still look good. Like, it shouldn't look like crap. Like, some parts of this, I took screenshots because I couldn't believe some of the things I was seeing. I'm like, these models look so bad. And I get it. It's way more open than the last game, but I just don't think they needed to do this. So,
I really didn't think it was too bad until I saw the thing where like you get Yuffie after the whole CPR crap and they make you walk up the ledge and she
yeah.
like ninja runs at you and it's clearly like the slowing running phase
Yeah.
just sped up and she looks ridiculous doing it. And I was like, huh. In
There,
a world where bullets kind of matter and kind of don't all at the exact same time, she could just like She looks like a little engine that just got hyperdrived.
Yeah, like in the Mithril Mines, there was one part where Barrett had to climb a ladder, and it's like the animation was broken or something. Maybe it was just a bug, but it was literally like the only thing that moved was his arm, and I'm like, God, how did we go from remake to this? I don't want to keep
Uh,
beating a dead horse here, but that bothers
I
me.
got to admit, though, Red being on the Chocobo is probably one of my favorite parts about it. If you ever have him in the
Yeah,
party, he
yeah.
looks absolutely ridiculous. A dog riding a freaking horse chicken.
I liked it, which for one, I thought he was a cat, and the fact that everyone calls him a dog, I'm like, okay, I kind of like it, but I feel like you're a cat.
It's definitely like a mix. He's definitely got to be like a chimera because he's got
Yeah,
like a number on his shoulder too. So I wonder like what that is.
yeah. I'm sure we're gonna find out. You played the original in the past.
It's
Do they
been
go into it?
forever. I would assume so. It's been so long, man. I don't barely remember it. I think I did it when I was really young.
Yeah, I mean, something else. The party size. How do you? What are your
You know,
thoughts
I
on the
kind
party
of
size?
I to be honest, I always kind of hated when games make me choose between party members because then like I feel like the whole point is to just like pick the ones that work the best.
Yeah,
Like I feel like Final Fantasy 13 was a story that you get like 6 members and you end up once you realize that the most annoying character Hope can play as a synergistic ally, like he gets moves in and then like there's nothing else you can do.
yeah.
But I kind of like how they make everyone have like the synergistic abilities. So I think that's a neat way to do it. And I do like how in the background they'll still like kind of attack a little bit. Like they'll do stuff. It really won't affect the enemy, but
Yeah.
kind of like you see them jump in and slap people, or like you see
Yeah.
Barrett shooting his BB gun at them for
Yeah.
like 3 hours.
Yeah, I like it, but it was almost better in the last game where it's like they take and give you party members when they
I
deem
kind of like that
necessary.
in the mines, yeah. Because
It,
well, then my problem is there are characters that are clearly designed to be with each other.
yeah,
Like Tifa and Aerith need to be in a party because they have synergistic abilities, especially inside their folios or whatever that monstrosity is.
right.
And then Red and Barrett are supposed to be a team. Not that I would have ever picked any differently. They seem like they're going to go perfect together.
Yeah, they're
It
totally
seemed
buddy
like
buddies.
absolutely.
It's
The
man and
beginning, he
his
gets
dog.
slapped by the tail, and he's like, "Yep, that's him. He's going to get the dog
Yeah.
for sure."
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on the game too much, but I just feel like this game is giving you so much choice and so many options, and to me that just takes away from the beauty of what they just did. But I'm gonna keep playing. I am gonna beat it. I like it. It's a good game. Combat changes. They've made a lot of changes to the combat. Like you said, you brought up the synergistic abilities. I think those are cool. I like how it took me a minute to realize, but yeah, they want you to spend so many ATP points with a character, and then if you do that with a character they synergize with, you can do a super move, and that'll give you an extra bonus in combat, and it does damage, and that's cool. That's a interesting way because I would always play with Cloud in the last game. So this
Absolutely.
incentivizes me to try. Okay, now play as Tifa for a little bit, cast off 3 abilities, and then go back to Cloud.
Well, my one problem with it is that I don't know if it's just because I'm manipulating their weaknesses too much, but like I murder them before I ever get like a synergistic ability. Like it's an absolute
Yeah.
ass beating when I get in there. By the time they're up, the guy has like no health left, so I
Yeah.
have no reason to do it. It has to be one of those slogs like when you fight Titan or the Phoenix and stuff. Like those absolute bullet sponges that you just gotta beat on for a while.
Yeah. Well, the way that I'm doing this, it's like, because I made it so far in Remake before I realized that if you put on another weapon, you could like master its ability and keep
Oh
it.
yeah, the proficiencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm going, you told me that, and now I'm going into this game. I'm like, all right, if I see a new weapon, I'm going to put it on immediately. I'm going to use that character to like get it, so I'm done. Because with the last game, Cloud had 2 weapons I just never gained full proficiency with. And I'm like, well,
And like
don't
that's
know.
what I did like about it is they gave each weapon like its own proficiency cap and it would give you like the ability of that weapon. So
Yeah.
like for like the Harbinger, I think is what it's called. You got like Infinite Edge or whatever that move is. And
Yeah.
like once you get that, it's like game over. Like if you do that and get them staggered and then increase like their stagger bar like crit rating to like 170, you would do max damage with it. Like And it was really cool that you'd get that weapon, you can switch to a different one if you like its play style a little differently, and then you could end up still using that ability. Like the
Yeah.
nail in the bat or whatever allows you to
Yeah.
take like you don't get the cool like Punisher mode like normally. Like he literally just swings it like a baseball, and it
Yeah.
literally just launches enemies away from you. It's like, well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I liked, and so now I'm trying to focus on that more. Or it's like as I'm playing through, if I get a weapon, I do that. So my characters don't always make sense. So then I go into a combat encounter, and maybe I don't have the right kind of spell. Which those folios give you those elemental abilities, and what are they for? What?
I think it's so you could like hit their weaknesses without having to use magic. But I honestly like half the time I feel like I would probably just give it to one character to have all of them and then just have all the other cool abilities because I don't really feel like they do much because like
Well,
Aeriths are
yeah.
garbage. They're like close range ones when like you should be able to shoot them from a distance like all of her other moves.
And it's like you use it to try and you attack the enemy's weakness, and they barely hurt them. They barely do any stagger. It's like, what is the point of this? Why is it there?
Like definitely feels like putting out a grease fire with water. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I didn't do much with that. I will admit though, it cracks me up that they give Barrett the ability to get physical, like melee weapons, but
Yeah.
in the cutscenes they don't change the weapons, and it's still expected that he's got a machine gun. So when he walked up behind the guy and put a like a bowling ball with spikes against the back of his head, like I'm gonna blow your brains out,
Yeah.
brother, and you're like, oh my lord, like it looks ridiculous.
Yeah. It's I don't know. There's problems with it. I know that they're working on patches that are going to fix some of these things. Like I've noticed so many visual pop-ins and unfinished animations and just blurry smeared textures on things, which it just makes me sad because the last game was so beautiful and this game is doing something totally different, which I'm burying that now. I'm going to go into it. I'm not thinking about the last game and how amazing that was anymore. And I'm just going to try to enjoy this game for what it is. And it is cool. And yeah, I don't know. What do you have any last thoughts here, Garrett?
No, I have to say I do enjoy the game. I think that it's pretty cool for what they did. I like how they took something that they made in the past and rather than just putting a new fresh paint on it, they ended up literally remaking it from the ground up, or maybe not like remaking it and following the same plot and everything, but kind of like adding in a different touch to it. Like for the one thing, like the whole thing from Remake where they do like the B scene where it's like a 10-minute dance scene. Like as ridiculous that is, and that was someone's probably best effort ever made. I think it's kind of neat that they spent the time to put it in there and to really flesh out the story they wanted to. But my fear is just that it's a good story, but it just hasn't like grasped me yet. And I don't know if it's because maybe when I was younger, it hit me at a more like maybe a less cynical phase, but this one I'm just like, what is going on? It feels like I'm kind of watching a bad slice of life anime where stuff
Yeah.
is just kind of happening.
Well, that's why I ultimately, I was thinking about this the other night because we were going to shoot the other night. We ended up going to the bar, even though I can't drink because I gave up alcohol for a little bit here. And
Is pretty much what he's
it's the
saying.
worst thing I ever did. This is miserable. I've been to so many things lately that I should be drinking for, and I haven't been able to, and it's miserable. But I was looking up how long to beat, and I was looking at how long it takes to beat Remake and Rebirth. So Remake, you could beat it in like 32 and a half hours. Rebirth is about 40 and a half. So they added like a little bit, 8 hours, nothing
Yeah.
crazy. But when you look at the completionist side of things, like if you're going to do the completionist playthrough of Final Fantasy Remake, it's like double the length. So like 86 hours. Rebirth is 118 hours. It's like tripling the amount of time if you're gonna like complete like the amount of stuff in this game is nuts. So if you're looking for like a game with value and like playtime, like there's a lot of stuff to do here. So
I think the part that really bugs me is the stupid card games. I just hate card games with the passion, and I hate it when they get weeded into the game,
yeah,
and I just I'm like,
well
I'm
that's
gonna have to do this. It's gonna drive me insane, but I'm gonna do it.
yeah. I gave up on that because when we were playing Intergrade 2, I said the same thing with Fort Condor. I'm like, You know what? I don't care at all about this. If I wanted to play mobile game, I'll go on my phone and I'll play mobile game. I don't care
Yeah.
about this at all. And then they did it again in Rebirth. And I thought about you where I'm like, Garrett does all of this shit. He does it all. I'm going to do it too. So I started going through the card games. I'm like, this is the worst. I hate this so much. I got to the level 3 and I barely beat him. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I put the
That's
card
where
game
I'm
behind
at,
me.
and I'm like, I'm looking at the thing and it pulls up. It's like, I'm gonna beat my head into the wall to beat this guy. Like, I'll collect the cards, but like, I don't know if I care about anything that this has to add. Like, why is a game mostly about fighting and turn-based combat originally? Got this in there. I can't stand that stuff. Like, it always drives me nuts.
I want to see Cloud fight Shinra. I don't want to play cards. Get your cards out of my RPG. So that's
I blame Witcher just because it had to be successful with its stinking Gwent game.
And yeah, I'm okay with these things existing. Just do they have to be in the game?
Could you have actually just released them as a mobile version?
Yeah.
I would have preferred that.
That's what World of Warcraft did. They got the card game and they got actual World of Warcraft. You want to play the card game, you could download the app Hearthstone. I forgot the name of it there. But they just had their 10th anniversary, believe it or not.
People love that game,
But
so
yeah, just make
Which
it
is
its own
essentially-
thing. Why does it have to?
which is like a more complicated version of just like the frickin' Queen's Blood game, because it's literally just like, how many spaces can you control?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how necessarily strong your guys are, as long as you can just take up more spaces, you're fine.
Yeah, because there's at least it doesn't seem like there's that many powerful cards that they could just lay down onto an area. It's like 1 or 2 or 3 pegs. So it's not like you're going to put a 6-peg monster on there randomly. If you got the pegs on the board, you're covered.
Yeah,
But,
by then it's usually end game, so at least it's like, it's not terrible. I'm just glad that you can kind of exit and rematch, and that like all the loading screens are so much faster. Like, if I had to sit through like a 2-minute loading screen for each one of those fights, I probably would have like thrown my PlayStation out a window.
Yeah. So I don't know, everybody. Those were our thoughts on Final Fantasy Rebirth. We will be covering it more. This is just our first little what to do about it, and yeah, I don't know. It's a good game. I hope you guys don't think I hate it after this discussion here. It's a good game, but
Who knows? We'll probably get another like 10 hours in and be effectively 1/3 of the way through the game.
Yeah,
And then we probably will maybe learn more about the story, and all my complaints will go away. Maybe I just need to be more patient.
maybe in 70 hours I will finally know what the hell is going on. And if this is a reality melding thing, or if they never address it, because this is made by the guy who does Kingdom Hearts. So maybe we'll never get an answer, and this will just be confusing forever. So.
And then we'll need 87 games just to confuse them more. I have no idea what happens in those games, man.
All right. Until next time, we will see you later. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
This video is brought to you by your support on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/GrouchyGus94 to help support the channel.